Welcome, everybody. We're going to be working on the Unit 1 exercises tonight. We are working off the Joyce Farrell book, Java Programming 9th edition, and I expect everybody has a copy of that. You can see up on my screen right now, we are looking at Unit 1 in our course shell inside of Blackboard. One thing, actually, I should probably make a comment about that right now. It's kind of a weird thing to put into this video, but this will be the last semester that Gateway is using Blackboard as our learning management system. And I don't mean to shock you guys because a lot of you guys are not done with your degrees yet. But starting during summer semester, we're switching to a system called D2L or Brightspace. It kind of has two names. It's really much more modern looking and behaving than Blackboard is, but it will be a transition. So I just want to let you guys know that just to prepare yourself mentally for it as we go into summer semester, that we will be changing our LMS. I assume they're going to probably have a bunch of like little training sessions and videos and seminars and webinars and all sorts of stuff for you guys to watch, to learn. If you figured out Blackboard, I will assure you that Brightspace is actually a whole lot easier to learn. It looks different, is mostly what it is. A lot of, all the stuff that you'll do in a class is basically the same. It's just a different way to deliver the material and submit your homework, basically. All right, so I'm going to scroll down here in Unit 1 and get down to the exercises, just to kind of refresh ourselves that we're looking at chapter exercises 6 through 11. On a separate tab here in the browser, I do have my book turned electronically to the programming exercises. And you can see what's kind of unusual here is the first 5 questions are actually kind of like these true-false questions that really are not coding exercises. So the first real coding exercise happens with exercise number 6. I'm going to bump in just a little bit in size here to make it just slightly more readable. And we're going to work on the first one here, and this one's called songlyrics.java. And our instructions are to write, compile, and test a class that displays the first few lines of the lyrics of your favorite song. You're welcome to do that if you have a favorite song that you're thinking of, or you can just follow along with what I'm going to do. I'm going to choose something I always choose, mostly because the lyrics repeat a lot and don't have to type. I can just copy paste. But let's jump over to Eclipse and get ready to work. And in fact, actually, before I jump over to Eclipse, and this is kind of the mindset I'd like you guys to operate in, is that's the temptation, is to go into Eclipse and start coding. But with programming, I think it's very important to start with file management first, always. And that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go to my File Explorer here in Windows. If you're on a Mac, go to Finder, whatever. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the spot where I store my work, which is in my Google Drive for me. For you, it might be in your Documents folder or your OneDrive or however you store your stuff. I have folders for my individual classes. And then, as I demonstrated last time, I have a folder for this semester so I can keep it separate from my other semesters. We are going to be working on the Chapter 1 exercises tonight, and where I'm going to build that is right inside of this folder. I'm not going to add it to the Chapter 1 You Do It exercises. That was a separate assignment, right? This is the Chapter 1 programming exercises, so I'm going to create a new project, and it's going to be in this folder. Now, because my Eclipse is already set to that workspace, and I know that it is because I can see the You Do It's here, and the temptation, of course, is to just keep coding in that same space. We're not doing that, though. I'm going to close all my open tabs. And that's really optional, by the way. But over here, up in the File menu or the first icon on the toolbar, you want to click, choose a new Java project, and I'm going to name it something appropriate. So this is going to be Chapter 1 Exercises. Spaces are okay here. This is just a name on a folder. All right, we're using the defaults of the JRE is the 1.8, the JDK is the 1.8 also. Ideally, if you're using different versions, it will still work, but those are the ideals. We're going to click the Finish button. All right, and you can see that over here on the left sidebar, I now have a project stub. Uh-oh. call it, which is looks like a folder, but it really isn't. It is a kind of a symbolic collection of content, which includes files and folders, but that's not all it is, right? This is just the project structure. Inside that source folder, I want to create a new class file. So I'm going to right click here in Eclipse and I'm going to say new class. Class should appear on the list here. If for any reason it doesn't, you can come down here to other. I'm just going to show you this, and you can then find it in this list, which is a little bit more comprehensive. You can see I do have it here as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and click class. Then it brings up this interface. At least for the moment, I would like you guys to make sure that the package declaration remains blank. If it has something in there and you forget about it, it's not really a big deal. It's not going to break your program. But my recommendation right now is that you leave that blank. For the name, we were already told what to call this, and this one is called songlyrics.java. So I'm going to call it song lyrics. Notice the capital S and the capital L. It is a convention in Java when you're naming a program that you start with a capital letter because it's going into a class file. It's just a convention in object-oriented programming. Classes start with a capital letter. That way, when you look at their name and code, you recognize right away it's a class. So we're going to type song lyrics here. Notice the modifier set to public. For the most part, we have no reason to change that. Down here at the bottom, we're going to pre-create the public static void main string args thing. and if you want to remember that, as goofy as it is to say the whole thing, say the whole thing. You know, that's how I got to memorize it. If you don't click this box, then you have to type that in manually. My recommendation is go ahead and do that. So finish, then it will build the file. I am really super zoomed in here. If you're wondering why my font is so big, I'm super zoomed in so you guys can see it a little bit better. I probably will zoom out just a little bit, a couple clicks, and I think that's okay. But if you at any point have a hard time seeing my code, just speak up and I will make it bigger or highlight it or scroll back or whatever you need. Now we've created the file. It's called songlyrics.java. It's in that folder. If you want to go back to that folder now and take a look, you'll see there's a chapter 1 exercises. If you open that up, you'll see there's a bin folder. That's where the compiled files end up. The source folder is where your code files are. You can go ahead and open it and you can see your file right inside there. Right. And I like to show you that connection so you understand that it is going into a folder and that's all being managed through Eclipse. All right, I'm going to move that out of the way. Also notice that the name of the class file exactly matches the name of the Java file. If it doesn't match, it doesn't work, by the way. And that's a pretty critical takeaway. All right. Inside here, inside the main method, I'm going to go ahead and delete this pre-generated comment by Eclipse. And basically, we're going to practice doing output to the screen. We did do this a little bit last time, so it should be a little bit of repeat. But the command to do that is system.out.println, println. Notice out and println are all lowercase, followed by a set of parentheses and a semicolon, right? I'm going to go back inside the parentheses and add some double quotes. And normally if I want stuff to go to the screen, so for example, we did hello world last time, right? You would just type that in here, right? But because I know I'm going to do song lyrics, think about this. Song lyrics usually have a bunch of separate lines in them, right? And so what I'm going to do is instead of typing this system out, print line, parentheses, double quote, semicolon each time, I've typed it once already. This is where we start getting clever with the copy paste. We're just going to copy this and we're going to drop it in a few more times. So I'm going to paste. I don't know, probably, I'll just put in a couple more here. I might not use all of them, but I have them there in case I want them. So now all I really have to focus on is getting my words in here. And so I think I'm going to do this song because I was doing it earlier today with a different class for a different programming language, by the way. I did this one, right? If you guys might recognize that. And I'm just going to say here, by the Beatles, right? And then I'm going to be even goofier, and I'm going to do some really bad ASCII art. I'll put some dashed lines in here like that. I want it to look nice too. You don't have to do that part. If you just get 4 lines of text in, I'll be happy. But let's go ahead and get some of the words in. And the words basically go like this. And this is why I choose this one because it's very copy pastable, right? So the song goes like this. She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think is that too many yeahs? No, that's the right number. And they do that again, and then they do that again, and then the fourth line is just yeah. So it makes it pretty easy to type. That's kind of why I use that. Now, really, what I would prefer for you guys is if you have a song that's got like 20 lines of lyrics, do the whole thing. And you know what? If there's like a break, let's say in between stanzas, like there is for "She Loves You," you could just do a blank system dot out dot print line, semicolon at the end. We always have to terminate with a semicolon. And then you could start your next few lines here, right? And I don't know what the next line is, whatever the next line is. And if I thought about it in my head, I'd have to sing through it though. Or I could just Google it, right? So that's the beauty. Like if you're doing song lyrics, just go out to Google, type in the name of your favorite song, add lyrics to it, press enter, and it should just pop up. All right. So now that you've got that in there, the good habit is you should save your program before you compile it. So I'm going to do a Control S. And if you look really, really closely, I know it's hard to see on my screen here, but right here in this spot, right next to the S, there's a little asterisk, which shows me right now it's not saved. So if I do a Control S, that's the keyboard shortcut way to save, Command S on a Mac. It is now saved. I'm going to come up to the toolbar, hit the Run button. And then down in the console here, the program should output. And it already did it, by the way. I just did it super, super fast and super large. But there's the output. So there's a title for the song with the artist. I got my dashed line in there, the first 4 lines of the song, and my little snarky whatever stuff. And the reason it kind of pushed me off the screen, by the way, is because I had 3 blank lines here, so it added 3 blank ones here. See that as I highlight them? But they are output, right? Um, so this is, and by the way, you guys, if you haven't figured this out already about chapter one's all about just let's get some stuff on the screen and see how it works, right? Um, when we move into chapter 2, then we start to add in other components, and we'll get to that when we do the Kahoot. Right, so that's the first exercise. That's songlyrics.java exercise 6. Let's go back now to the book, and now we're going to work on um, exercise 7. This one says, write, compile, and test a class that displays your favorite movie quote, the movie it comes from, and the character who said it, and the year of the movie. So that sounds like 4 different things. And save the class as moviequoteinfo.java. Now, if you have an ebook, and I do, I'm going to actually save myself some typing here. And I'm just going to copy that. I don't know if this is one of those weird ebooks that makes me like that takes like the citation and drops in. I guess we're going to find out in a second here. All right, I'm going to go back over to Eclipse, and I'm going to create the new program now. We're going to do it in the same set of exercises. So I'm going to right click that source folder, say new class. I already have the name copied, so I should be able to just paste. So there you go, movie quote info with a capital M, Q, and I. That's called camel casing with the first letter being capital. We will do our public static void main, and we will click finish. Notice the package is blank. All right, so there's our new program. And not that I want to like really cheat or anything, but you know what? I already kind of typed the system out print line over here, and there's a couple of blank ones here that I haven't used yet. Okay, so now you guys see my strategy, right? I'm just going to copy these. In fact, I'm going to cut them because they're not really needed here. And I'm going to go to my new program and just paste them in. Now I have blank ones to work with. And really, I need, I think, one more. I think we had 4 things we had to put on the screen. Now, there is some value in manually typing this out and working with the IntelliSense, but there's also value in like recognizing, hey, I'm repeating something. I can find a faster way to do it. A professional would do that. Why wouldn't you? Right. So here, okay, let's look at the instructions again because I think I forgot them. Okay, favorite movie quote, movie it comes from, character who said it, and the year of the movie. All right, so now I need a favorite movie quote. Okay, this is just the first thing that's popping in my head, so please forgive me. And actually, isn't probably an actual quote, is it? I think it's Luke, I am your father. And you know what? If you guys are actual Star Wars fans, you know that's not actually a quote from the movie. I think he says something to the effect of, I'm your father, search yourself, you know this to be true, or something. I don't think he ever says that, but that's what I'm going to use. Okay. Um, so it comes from the movie um, The Empire Strikes Back, right? It's not the first movie. The Empire Strikes Back. The character who said it, we assume it's Darth Vader. The last bit of information was the year of the movie. I guess I have to Google that one. Yeah, I have somebody here in the room telling me it's the 70s. Empire 1980. How do you like that? Close to the 70s, but not quite. 1980. I was still in high school at that time. Holy cow. All right. So there's the information. Um, Once again, make sure you do a control S to save. I'm noticing song lyrics is no longer saved either. I'm going to do control S on that one. I'm going to come back to movie quote, make sure that's the highlighted tab. I'm going to hit the run button and let's see if it works. All right. And you know what? Um, might be might have been good to have quotes in there too, but we'll talk about why I didn't do that. Um, but we'll do that as we kind of move forward. Did everybody get this to work okay? Does anybody have any issues? You guys all good? Everybody's all quiet, so I'm assuming that's good. And cameras are off too, so I can't see people nodding too much. Only Marina. All right, thank you, Marina. All right, let's move on to the next exercise. We got a few of them to do here, so let's not waste time. The next one is we're gonna write this one called Table and Chairs, and if you guys check it out, we're gonna build ASCII art here. And yeah, out of X's, looks like capital X's to me. We're gonna make this goofy little artwork. Now, I'm going to be a little bit smart about this because I'm realizing that what they're trying to show us is that when I put stuff inside of these system out print line statements, and I don't know if you guys have figured this out yet, but exactly what I put in between the quotes is what appears on the screen with that same spacing using monospaced characters. So like here, I'm just kind of writing normal, but if I had put in like 2 spaces here and I ran the program, notice what happens. It adds 2 spaces here, right? And so if I want to achieve this effect, I could look at this and go, well, there's an X, a whole bunch of spaces, and then another X. And that's kind of hard to count how many spaces it might be, but we're going to have to try to figure it out somehow. And there's some tips on the screen here. And this is what I do, right? The first thing I look at is I go, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines. So we're going to do 6 system out print lines. That's a given, right? Then I'm going to notice that I have how many X's going across, and I'm going to guess there's 5 of them here. There's probably 2 blanks here. Then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 going across, plus 2 plus 5. So that's 10, 5, 5, that's 20 plus 2, and 2 is 24. That's my count. Now maybe you guys can count it and go, no, I counted 23. Whatever. We're trying to get it to look close. Perfect would be ideal, but it might not be perfect. And I do get students that also like, well, I don't like using X's. Can I use something else? I'm like, sure, go for it. The whole point is to get practice doing it. So I'm going to go ahead then, and I'm going to basically create another new class file here. And you see how like we're kind of getting into this flow that's happening now. And we're told to name this table. You got to spell it right though. Table and chairs, right? Public static void main, and click finish. All right. Let's manually type the system out print line this time, capital S, system dot out dot print line, parentheses, semicolon, and then inside there, double quotes, right? I think I said we need 7 of these. Was that right? See how quickly we forget. Right. So that's what I'm going to put in here. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm going to start, well, I can look at this, I guess. So here's kind of a little trick. I don't know if you guys have a second screen, you put this on your second screen. If you have a physical book, just look at it. But I don't want to move that to the second screen. So I'm going to actually use my snipping tool. This is kind of a very primitive hack, by the way. And I'm just going to screenshot this, right? That's going to be inside my snipping tool here. And I can make that kind of small on my screen and move it over to the side. If you guys catch my drift here. And then I can pull up Eclipse, come out of full screen mode, and get to like nearly full screen mode and code through this, but I can still look at that the whole time and do my counting if you guys are catching my drift. The one thing I know for sure is I'm using X's, and there's an X in the first position of every line. So I'm just going to do this. X on all of these. Once again, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, there's only 6 lines. Okay. So I got 1 line too many. All right. I'll leave the first one blank. All right. Now I'm going to go in and take a look at the stuff that I can put in easily. So I see on the 4th line, I need 5 in a row. So this is 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I think I remember I counted 2 spaces, and then there's another X. Now, the line above it is all blanks until we get to that X. So now I can kind of start building it, right? See what I'm doing there? And then that line, there's 9 more. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then a bunch of spaces and stuff. I haven't figured that out. But now that the top of the table is set, I can come here and put in some spaces and another X for the other table leg, 2 spaces, and then 5 X's. Right? You guys seeing my strategy here? I'm finding a spot where it's easy to have a point of reference, and then I'm building all the rest relative to it. So then I'm going to need an X here. Then this is going to be really easy, right? And I'm not necessarily going top down. That's kind of my point here. That for me, it was easier to solve this situation by not going top down and kind of starting at the middle and working my way up and down. Right. And then I know there's going to be a couple blanks here, and a couple X's here. Right. The other thing, I don't know if you guys are picking up on here, but there's kind of like an economy of movement I'm doing. Like the last 2 lines are kind of the same kind of maneuvers. So I'm kind of doing them together because it just makes sense to me that way. Like, hey, I just did this. I can do it again, But there's my table and chairs. Okay. Let's go ahead and run this. I am going to run it without saving it first. And you'll notice that you get this dialogue that says save and launch. And of course, you want to save it first, right? So you're going to say, okay. And then there it is. Now, I know you feel a huge sense of accomplishment from this one because it's kind of goofy, but this is what we call ASCII art. Um, but it helps you understand how stuff gets to the screen. That's really the important part. Basically, the spaces that are shown here are preserved in the output here. It is identical, right? So system out print line renders all the spaces that you get. Now, as web developers, you guys know, like when we're working with HTML, you put spaces in your HTML, it only renders one space. You have to force the other ones in, right? That's not how it works here. You know, and that's I think an important takeaway too. All right, next exercise. Let's go back over here. So we did tables and chairs. Now we're going to do triangle. Really similar. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines here again. Boy, that sounds really familiar. This is going to go really fast, right? So once again, right click, new class file. We're going to call it triangle with T's. We are going to do a public static void main. Here's our blank program. We're going to create one system out print line. So double quotes, there's our semicolon at the end. And then, what did I say? 7 of these. So we're going to copy. And there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. The bottom one has got the T's, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 is what I'm counting if I'm correct. Hopefully I'm correct. And if not, you know what? I'll fix it. All right. So that on the bottom, this will go on the bottom. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And then we should just start with a blank and fall one short, right? And notice I don't need to add the space at the end, right? Not necessary. Oops, and I lost my cursor there. And maybe I didn't do this quite right here. Does this look a little off to you guys? I guess we'll find out in a second. It seems like I'm not going to have enough room for all my T's. Maybe 13 was the wrong count, but maybe not. Maybe it was, I think, exactly correct. All right, so I did count it right because otherwise it wouldn't have turned out, right? It would be off. So here goes. Let's see if it runs. We're going to do a save and launch here. And there it is. There's my triangle of T's. So that was triangle. Right. Moving on, get the next one. The next one is comments Java. And for this one, I thought would be kind of interesting is I have some pre-configured comments, and we're going to play with this just a little bit here. All right, so okay, so we're going to try it in a number of different methods here. That's kind of the point. So let's go back to Eclipse and create this. Now, we played with comments a little bit last time, if you guys recall, but I'm going to create a new class file. We're just going to call it comments, 2 M's there, and public static void main. Now, as we drop this in, the first thing I'm going to mention is, hey, this thing already starts with a comment, right? So if you want, this is a basic comment, if you want to call it that, and probably the most typical kind. 2 slashes at the beginning of a line. Now, interestingly, you can also, like if I had a comment and I wanted to put a comment here, I can put it after the code on the thing and say this is also a comment. That works. As long as it's at the end of a line, the stuff before will still execute. Right. Another kind of interesting approach to commenting is you can use what we call the CSS style commenting. So web people, if you've already done your HTML class, this will look familiar. That's where you start with a / and a star, and then you close with a star and a / But I want want to have you notice here, I just typed /* and then I pressed enter, and then Eclipse automatically added the stars in between. And the thinking is here you can add a bunch of comments. So you could say like, this is a block comment or a CSS style comment. And the CSS style commenting does work in a lot of programming languages. But if you have a lot to say, that's probably a better technique than using /, I think. Right. So there's kind of like the three basic ways to do comments. The other thing that I'm going to throw in here, right? So I'm just going to do this little. I am copy pasting this in, and this is not obligatory, by the way, but I'm just doing this so that we get something that pops up on the screen, because I don't know if you guys are picking up on this. So far in this program, if I ran it, nothing would show up on the screen. It's all comments. It would still run. It would just be blank. So I'm doing this J option pane thing, and they talk about this in the book, so I'm going to demonstrate it once. But notice how I typed it in. I didn't type it. I pasted it in, right? But I pasted it in, and it's underlining red. Now, one thing you have to remember in Eclipse, if it's underlining red, your program is not going to run when you hit the run button. There's a problem. As I hover over it, it's saying J option pane cannot be resolved. And what is happening is we are missing the import statement at the top of the file that imports the libraries that puts that on the screen, that gives us the option dialog on the screen. So if I select import J option pane here, that would actually fix the problem. So that would import the library. And notice it's kind of backwards, right? So like if you were hand coding this for real, you'd start with your import statement knowing that you want to use this tool and then type it in. But I did it the other way. I typed in the tool I know I wanted to use, knowing it would throw an error. This is a strategy, by the way. And then I let the error correction mechanism in Eclipse give me the solution. So it saved me one line of typing, right? So this kind of seems kind of silly, but at the same time, this is an efficient way to code. This is how a lot of programmers do it, you know? So, all right. So let's just go ahead then. Let's add another little comment here. Right, so you notice how that just goes off to the side there. It will not interfere with the executing code. When I run this code, it will put a dialog box up on the screen. The other thing I do want to show you, and this is kind of like this weird little symbol, we haven't gotten to this yet, but this is called a concatenation symbol, where I can write a string or a series of characters and join it to another series of characters. Now, I didn't need to do that, by the way, but this is kind of a neat little teaching example too. So when I run this, just run it and show you the result. You get a dialog box that looks like this, right? And notice it says program contents are non-executed statements you add to a file for documentation. And you notice here it comes out as one line of text, but here it's actually split, right? I could, by the way, eliminate this. Let this all be on one line. Yeah, it's really super long and it goes off the edge of the screen. But if I run it, what you'll notice is that it works just the same. No difference. So when I had that split over two lines, I'm doing that for my own sake so I can read it instead of having to scroll off the edge of the screen. Another thing that you can do in your editor, you have to go into the settings for this, is you can turn on what we call word wrap. So when it gets to the edge, it just automatically goes down. But that's on you. I'm just trying to show you the feature here, basically. All right, this is comments.java. We got that one working too. Right. Now, if you were to screenshot this one, I know you guys are probably kind of struggling with that piece. It's like, oh, Ty, this is a little different. How would you screenshot this? I would run it. I would leave a little box up on the window like this, And then I would just screenshot the middle part of the window here with all the code and the box. All right. I think we have maybe one or two more here, so let's get back to it and finish. Nope, one more. Oh, we already did it. Okay, so modify the comments Java program and call it comments dialog. Well, I did it with the same program, so I didn't name it something different, but that's exactly what I did here is I added the dialog box and a comment after it. So this is basically both comments and comments dialog. So if you do it just the way I did it, I'm fine with that. You don't have to do two separate submissions. All right, just a refresher for turning in the work, right? I typically want you to put this into a document. You could use Google Docs, Word doc, whatever is comfortable for you. I know that a lot of people are using Google Docs to do this, so I'm going to just demonstrate with that really quick. But if you are in your browser, you're logged into your Gateway email account, you can go to your apps icon. You can either go to Drive or directly to Docs, whatever you want to do. Create a blank document, bring up your snipping tool. I'm going to get Eclipse on the screen just the way I want it. And you know what? I'll get the program running and I'll leave the box there like I was talking about. Then I'll bring up the snipping tool, click the new button, and then I'll just come in here and I would probably screenshot it sort of like this, right? So I have all the code and the program running at the same time. If I look at the snipping tool, it looks pretty good. I'll hit my copy button here. And then when I go over to Google Docs, I can put in a title and say exercise, exercise, whatever the number is. And I would paste in the screenshot. All right. When you're all done with the screenshots, all your exercise screenshots should be here. You should be shooting screenshots of the code and the program running, both of those things, along with indication of what I'm looking at. When you're all done with the document, you just download it as a Word document, right? I'll just go through the whole process here. It's called Untitled. That's not a good name, by the way, but that's what it's called. I would take this file. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to put it with my other chapter 1 exercise stuff. So I'll show you how I do that. I'm going to go into the Java 1 folder here for spring 24. Here's the chapter 1 exercises. I'm not going to put the document in here. I'm going to actually paste it here. So we'll go ahead and paste. And, you should probably name it appropriately. It should probably match the exercises, right? So it should probably say chapter 1 exercises. And I'll press enter to lock that in. And then with the folder that says chapter 1 exercises, you can just simply right click that, compress it to a zip file. If you're on Windows 10, that right click menu will look more like this. And then you just choose send to compress zip folder. You have the zip file. Then you go to Blackboard, hit the assignment title, go down to upload files. And then I like to drag them over from the file dialog. So I just grab the document of the screenshots. Then I'll grab the chapter 1 exercise zip. Make sure they're both listed here. Preferably document first, by the way, and then hit submit. If you want to type in some comments or something, that's on you. But that's all I need you to do to turn the work in. All right. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop this video. So that covers the chapter 1 exercises, how to turn in the homework.